Welcome to the 2018-19 Canalta Hotels AJHL Coaches Show. I'm Dave Dawson. We're at the Sherwood Park Arena. Pleased to be joined by Eric Thurston, the head coach and general manager of the Drayton Valley Thunder, the new head coach and general manager of the Drayton Valley Thunder. First of all, Eric, thanks so much for joining us on the AJHL Coaches Show. What's it been like getting back behind the bench and now in Drayton Valley?
Well, it's absolutely been wonderful. It's been exciting, to be able to come into with an organization that, we needed to make some adjustments. And we certainly, in where I saw our team was, needed to make some house cleaning duties, done by myself. But no, I've really enjoyed the general manager side of things, being able to look for players, find players, recruit players. But then last night with our win in overtime in the preseason, to be back on the bench really gives you no other feeling. That excitement, the feeling of really being alive is fun. So I've really embraced the chaos, but I've really enjoyed the process so far.
Now, we'll get into the logistics of all that, and I'm excited to kind of unpack what the process has been like for you to put a team together. But for those maybe that aren't sure of your resume, it is extensive. What are some of the highlights of your career in your coaching career?
Well, being selected head coach at the University of Alberta, being able to work, under a great man by the name of Rob Daum, being able to have Claire Drake as one of my mentors, being able to coach there. But, the U of A is a really a special place, just the tradition, the quality of the players that you have there, and being able to win. 2 national championships as a head coach. Those are things you never forget. But just being able to work with such great players, guys like Derek Ryan, Eric Hunter, Gavin McLeod, Harlan Addison, Ryan Stempel. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. You could name every player of every year that you coached. And that really gives you it's fun to coach, and it's been able to transfer into coaching in Drayton Valley. You see players that are just sponges to learn the game, to develop, and having that foundation, being at the U of A and being able to put that in place. I hope that sort of culture in place in Drayton is certainly exciting, trying to be a part of it.
You took your coaching career to Europe and then made a trip back. What was that decision like for you to get into the process of accepting this job in Drayton, and how did your family, I guess, impact that decision?
Well, I think when I first told my wife that, by the way, I've got a job in Budapest, Hungary, and we're moving 4 kids, and we have to be there in 2 weeks. Drayton was an easy sell at the end of the day. But be able to go over to Europe and to be able to coach the under-20 national team and under-18 national team, I think really gave me a great foundation of wanting to work with the kids, younger kids. And then the transfer from Drayton when I drove out there, it's funny how you get a feeling, when you're driving. I certainly enjoy that part, driving out there. I get a lot of work done, and then being able to meet the people in that community has just been phenomenal. It's a really, really tight-knit community. I first started by going to kind of a volunteers function for all of the people in Drayton Valley, and I just knew this was a wonderful community, and then being able to work with the owners, getting to meet the players that were there last year. It's really been nothing short of a little bit of chaos, but a friend of mine said embrace the chaos, because rarely do we get a chance to come into a situation where it's a little bit out there and then trying to reel it back in and put your own stamp on it.
Now, hockey in Drayton Valley, obviously missing the playoffs last year, the 6 previous years making the playoffs, and throughout the storied history of Drayton Valley, been able to put some competitive teams together, but it has been kind of an ebb and flow. Now, what has that process been like for you to put a coaching staff together, to get a thumbprint back in the community, to make a presence in the community of Drayton Valley, where there is such great history of people who love hockey in that town?
Well, I think that you're right. That was the biggest part, Dave, to be able to embrace the community and want the community really to feel a part of it. So it first started, basically everybody was kind of either moved out on their own or we moved out. and I was we kept Murray Summers, one of a very, very good scout who's been there quite a while, and Jack the bus driver. But after that, it was a clean slate. So we've hired a wonderful athletic therapist there to help us out. Our back office staff, though, of Trina was always Erin. She's kind of the glue that holds the organization together. She's got she does everything. But then we were looking for assistant coaches, and we were able to bring a guy that played a little bit in the pros, but also played in Drayton Valley, so alumni back by the name of Darren Reed. And then we were able to extend to a great guy in the community that I knew from the University of Calgary Dinos, Eric Schneider. And then with the other guy that's really helped us, and he doesn't realize that he is my assistant coach, but it's not on his tag, is a guy by the name of Ian Gordon. And Ian Gordon's our goalie coach, but he's been a good sounding board when I was kind of on my own and just trying to find which way to go. I really didn't have another person to bounce things off of. And I think I phoned him more than I did my wife. You kind of look on your cell phone and you see all the calls, but Ian was a real big help. So having that kind of experience and those just great people around to be able to sit and talk openly, discuss players, discuss where we want to go, how we want to build our team, really has helped us. And I think we put together a team that has good speed. We're very, very young. I think last night was 11 or 12 kids had never played one game in the AJ in our lineup. And we're going to continue to get better, but there's definitely going to be day in and day out some real growing pains in that. And you got to expect that with young kids, but we just got to thinking we got a lot of coaching to do. We got a lot of coaching to do, and we got to just keep working at it.
The one theme that I have heard in the coaches that you have put together is winning, with Darren Reed and Eric Schneider, a couple of guys who aren't strangers to winning, yourself as well. How do you translate that mindset, as you mentioned, to building a roster of players? Every coach wants players who want to win. How do you instill that in young players, and what kind of qualities do you look for as you're building that through?
Well, that's a real tough thing. And, I think the first part is trying to find and develop good people. Good people in the community, good people of just who they are with their families and just their culture about them. And then when you keep working with them, and you keep developing them, almost winning becomes a byproduct of all that. And if you only say, well, we got to win, it doesn't necessarily happen. But if you look to build on their skill level, build on their understanding of the systems, but first of all, building on developing good people. And that's so important that if you have good people in your dressing room and they're going to then not look after just themselves, they're going to look after their teammates as a whole. And then when you have that portion or you have that foundation, then you can sell them or you can develop them into being good hockey players. And we want our players to be able to have options. That's the biggest part. Let's come out of here with options, either it be U Sport, NCAA, Western Hockey League, or moving to business. But you've learned from being a Drayton Valley Thunder what it is just to be a good person. And I think that's kind of the foundation of what I started with, and then we'll hope the byproduct on the ice builds from that.
Is it almost easier to do that with a high amount of turnover coming in? Players don't know you as last year's coach and maybe don't know you as a 17-win team or whatever. They see you as new coach, new players. Is it almost easier to instill that with a clean slate?
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes when you have veteran guys that have been there, and they're also part of the old regime, they're going to be loyal to that, which is great, which is natural. But that was kind of look to see what we had in the roster, meet with those kids, talk with those kids, see where they stood. And we certainly had a lot of players requesting trades and not wanting to come back to Drayton, and that's fine. I mean, everybody has their right. But I also took from Claire Drake, I want players that want to be here. And I want players that are excited about change. And it's not easy to sit down and say, I'm going to be a person that's going to make change, in a program. I mean, and you think how brave, I really admire how brave our young guys are to say, hey, I want to come to Drayton Valley and I want to be a part of change. And you're asking 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds to be able to do that. When adults want to take, often we want to take the easy way out and not have to really put our stamp on things and work at things. And so the thing that I really respect and I put on my board is the courage and the respect I have for our players on wanting to be part of change.
It almost sounds like a resilience or a determination. That leads right into the next question I was going to ask you about. Was there, as you were going through those interviews, was there one common trait from players from last year that you kind of heard that you wanted to foster and grow, and maybe is that determination and resilience part of that?
Yeah, and they certainly said, you know what, I want to leave the jersey in a better place than I got it. And that was an interesting thing, kind of a common theme. Like, I don't want to be the guy that put Drayton in a worse spot. I want to grow this. And the common was thing that I liked my billets. We have a great, strong billet coordinator, billet family situation, and I think that connection to the community. But that was the theme, that I want to take this jersey and I want to leave it in a better place. And that's when I said, okay, these guys, I want them on my team. And then the recruiting part was going out to meet those kids, meet their parents, sit in their living room, sit at the kitchen table, and find out who they were, and just being able to discuss it and just see these kids, who they were off the ice. And I said, okay, this is a guy we can work with. This is a guy we can work with. This is a guy we can work with. And you certainly got a different theme or a different approach with guys that didn't want to come. They were very much, who have you lettered? Where's anybody going? What's going on? I've heard this. I said, you know what? That was last year. And that I have I don't know what happened. I have no part. And I said, I don't care, because I'm not worried about what's happened behind me. I'm looking forward, and we're moving forward.
When you talk about building an organization, you talk about components that you want in your team. Obviously, there isn't a person in the world that wasn't touched by the Humboldt Broncos bus crash. When I hear some of the words on your heart, I think of respect, integrity, believe. Principles that Darcy Hogan, a guy who coached in Alberta, who really lived by and brought that into the hockey culture. When you see those things on the wall, are those kind of some of the things that you look at and really want to embody and instill in this crew?
Well, absolutely. It's funny. In the dressing room at the U of A, there's only one saying on the wall, and it simply is, it's amazing what can be accomplished when no one cares who gets the credit. And it's funny, when I walked into the Drayton Valley dressing room in March, I drove out there with my wife, I saw 12, 13, 14 different sayings that just everyone just did not sit right with me. So went to had a couple players go to the Home Hardware, and we got white tape and we covered them all up. And then I realized this room needs a makeover. So we brought the guys in, we painted it, we gutted the lounge area to make it a new lounge area, and we just did everything we could just to make this a warm, comfortable, where guys want to hang out. And we don't want guys leaving. We want that team culture coming in. So right from, I guess, wherever I've seen something that I didn't like, it's been, okay, we gotta change this. Can I change it right now? Not necessarily, maybe, depending on what it is. But that part of Pat, Monty, and Cindy, and Trina, and obviously Alicia, our athletic therapist, and the volunteers of Drayton really have come together. So it's been a lot of fun.
And when you talk about building quality players, I think about the picking of a captain, Brendan Voss, obviously no longer in the league. What's that process been like for you in selecting a captain, and maybe some of the options there, and when can fans expect to see a captain announced of the Drayton Valley Thunder?
Well, it's not going to take very long. Since the start of training camp, been able to really get to know the guys in their different in the situations. But that was kind of part of the off-season work, is to find character guys that had been in the league, knew the ropes of it. But I know in the trade process, or you're trying to inquire or pick up those guys, that everything kind of, when I ask questions to the old GMs, they said, well, I've talked to him. We've talked about him wearing a letter next year. He's probably going to be our captain. I don't think we want to move him. This kid's just great in the dressing room. He's great in the community. So kind of all that saying, and so some deals took honestly months and months and months because that's the guy I wanted. I know they didn't want to give them up, but we certainly had some chips to play with. So we've got some great options. And I don't want to say in any particular order, but the leadership of Tanner Foster, he's a first-class kid. He's a pro. He has just been a real leader for us on and off the ice. James Orban, who I picked up from Alberni Valley, he came in. I met with him over the summer, and just right away, just who he is and how he carries himself has been key. A tough defenseman, Zach Aston, an Edmonton boy. I knew from Bonnyville, how good he was, and just how the character that he had after meeting with him and his parents. His younger brother's on our team too. There's Jeremy Klesens, who had been in the league, and just he's got a nice way, the way he carries himself. But there's also some veteran guys, Corbin Chabot, that we've got with that. And so trying to get as many former captains, former assistants, even just in the recruiting process, because I knew who they are. But no, we're going to sit down next week after this weekend. We're going to look to announce that. But we've got a real nice kind of leadership group that we meet with as much as we can. And they're almost kind of the assistant coaches part of the program, because they know the dressing room. And you've got to be able to talk with those guys, get their input, because as a coach and as a GM, I certainly respect their opinion and what they bring to the table with our team.
All right, so you mentioned some names. Why don't we get into the particulars of your roster? Why don't we start on the back end? And I know that the Thunder obviously were at the bottom of the league when it came to goals against last year, and whether that be defensive scheming or goaltending or defensively, I don't want to put too much attention to that, but how much of that stat did you factor into how you shaped the team defensively, offensively, and the skill caliber of players you're looking to bring in?
Yeah. Well, I thought I got to build from the goalie out, or build from the back end out. That was key. I mean, if you spend a lot of time in your own end and you can't move the puck and you can't get it to your forwards, then it's just it makes for some very long nights. So that was key, and I really like our defense. I think we've got a good mix of young guys, toughness, experience. That's the one part that I looked at and really wanted to make sure we were solid in that. And then the other part is, being able to, our system, being able to not necessarily, we're not playing man-to-man. So the other part is we really focus on being able to move pucks tape to tape. Our team was kind of built to be a good skating team, a good puck possession team. In my opinion, other than skating, passing is the next most important skill. And if you can't pass, you can't play. And if you can't move the puck, you can't advance, and you can't make those plays. So that was kind of the dynamic and the build-up of how we were going to build our team. I've certainly seen this league, and boy, you look at some of the teams, they're big, they're strong, they're fast, they're just tremendously skilled. And we've got to be able to grow and be able to develop ourselves to be able to play at that level. Are we there yet? I don't think so, but we've got lots of work to do, but we've got, I think, a good foundation to be able to build with.
And the elephant in the room, obviously, every year is to be able to compete with a Spruce Grove, right? And
yeah.
Maybe a Brooks or an Okotoks. And how far, or how much progress would you like to see out of that back end? It's maybe in 3-4 months. How would you assess the trajectory of their development? If they were able to reach here, then I'm happy with the progress. Can you put a figure on it like that?
Well, no, I look at it of just there's 16 very good teams in this league, and every day these teams are getting better, and it's our responsibility as coaches, and it's our responsibility with the players for have them to get a little bit better every day. There's certainly challenges with that, of the kids in school, the kids working, the kids volunteering. There's lots of outside factors, but at the end of the day, when we come to the rink, we've got to work hard. We've got to make sure we're developing these kids skill-wise. And at the end of the day, I didn't say we had to be here, but those are great models to when we play those teams, that this is the measuring stick, guys. And this is the speed, this is the skill, and this is where we got to be. There's no easy button that we have to be able to press, and it just takes your work in the gym, it takes your work on the ice. But we've talked about this. When you leave the rink and when you leave the dressing room, you're not done. You've got to process what we've put into place that day or that week in practice, and you just can't park it and then go home and be the Fortnite MVP of all the video games. You've got to still be thinking and working hockey. So we're trying to develop that mindset. We're going to put some things in place where they can continue to work at it. But no, I think if we look after ourselves of just getting a little bit better every day, a little bit better every day, we're going to grow as individuals, but we're also going to grow as a team.
All right, so why don't we look at the goaltending position? Two returning goaltenders, Sean and Rory. How would you assess their skill and their development, and where would you like to see them this year?
Well, that's a huge part for us, having that foundation in goal with Sean and Rory, and that's one position where I felt comfortable with, knowing when I talked to Sean over the summer that he was excited to come back and just compete and just to be a key figure for us. And then with Rory, I've never seen anybody work so hard. He just is hungry for that our team to be successful. He battles on every puck, and when you get two guys like that are going to be give your team an opportunity to win every night. I mean, they're going to face lots of shots. I mean, they're going to get tested, but that's what they want. And so that foundation of those two guys in there and their character that those two guys have is a good start. It's important for goalies to be able to, coexist, which, they support each other. They're hoping everybody is able to, to get better. And having those two guys in the pipes is a good start. And then obviously I like our defense. And then certainly some youth up front. But I really like our skill and our speed up front. But, it's a long season. The 60 games is a tough grind. And we'll see how these kids are, at the end of October and in November. And we'll take those breaks. And it's important to be able to see how your team is emotionally, mentally. I mean, as hard as you work them in the gym and on the ice, that rest is equally as important, but also these young kids making sure they're eating properly. So it's a whole approach that you got to get the four pillars in place for them.
All right, so we've touched on a few forwards there. I mean, are there any other players you'd like to highlight and maybe talk about? Maybe someone who's worked extra hard in camp, or maybe somebody that fans can go on and buy a jersey number, because if there's a few new players out there, fans want to get behind somebody. So not to single anyone out, but is there maybe a couple of names you could throw out there?
Well, there's a couple great. I mean, there's 25 great kids, which is nice. But last night when we played Sherwood Park, we have this young guy Dex Moselle. And Dex is a great penalty killer for us. And if fans want to watch an absolute clinic in shot blocking, we took a penalty late. We were tied 3-3. We took a penalty late, and Dex Moselle must have blocked 6 shots. And it was just a clinic. So if you want to see bravery, and you want to see, I mean, it was phenomenal. And then we've got some nice young guys. We've got a Caden Chabot. He's the younger brother of Corbin Chabot. We've got a nice guy by the name of Ty Whitford, who's also an O2 that the puck just seems to follow. We've got a real nice player by the name of Ben Stollery. He was originally, I think, signed by Spruce Grove, and things didn't work out. Went back to MLAC. And he's just been a real good player. He's a 6'1", great centerman that can take key draws. On the back end, we've got a nice kid who I know is going to have every NCAA team asking about him by the name of Brett Bamber. We've got this big guy by the name of Brock Bartholomew, who's 6'3", can skate, handle the puck. We've got this guy by the name of Bailey Tominga, who is an absolute warrior too. He blocks shots. He has every player on the opposition pissed off and mad at him and going at him. So you go through our guys. Foster's such a key, but you go through our defensemen, our veterans at forward of Klesson, Hops, and Orban, the 2 Shabots. Matthew Kanash has been a good player. So we've got a nice mix of guys there, and we're going to continue to work with these kids and make sure they, you almost need to develop that kind of pro mentality where this is where I am, this is where I'm going to go, this is what I need to do through my routine, through how I look after ourselves. And I'm excited to be a part of it.
Sounds like hardworking, and which I guess if you're trying to get into the community of Drayton Valley, farming and hardworking people. So I imagine that'd be a good sell.
Well, they're great people because it's a hardworking, oil and gas farming town, and the people want to just see also a hardworking team. I mean, they want to respect that's what we want to be our identity. We don't want to get outworked by anybody. But no, that town, I really enjoy just driving through and going to the coffee shops there, and just the people are excited about it. And to get that win last night in overtime was really, really positive. And that was more for, I think, for our community, for what they've been through, but just also for our hardworking staff there. They've just done so much getting prepared for the start of the season, and it was nice to be able to give that back to them. And now we can move on to tonight's home opener against Sherwood Park.
If there's one message maybe that we haven't already talked about that you want to leave with the fans of Drayton Valley, maybe those who've been following the team for a while and want to get back involved, what's that one message you want to leave for them?
Well, we want, I guess in a sense, we've missed you, and we want you to feel connected. I mean, we don't want to be these guys are, in the ivory tower or whatever you call it, but Drayton Valley is not that community. I mean, it is roll up your sleeves, get dirty, bring your work boots, bring your hard hat, bring your lunch bucket, and that's the way we kind of want to build our team. But it has such a strong, last year was their 20th anniversary, and there's so many people that are, you come in to the office there, and they're at the desk there, and they're phoning people regarding selling season tickets, and they care. And so it's easy and it's fun then, because you see what they're putting their heart and soul into it. And, we want them to know that we are there for them. In a sense, I don't want myself to feel that they can't approach me. We can't talk on the street. You can't come to me in the coffee shop. You can't do that. I want to be a part of Drayton Valley. I want to really be a part of the success, that the people really can take pride in our hockey program, and our players really take pride in being part of that community. And I think that's so important, that you connect with the community. That as a small town of 8,000 people, that it's so important to work hard every day, being a part of that community.
Eric, I really appreciate you joining us today. Thanks so much for taking time for the Canalta Hotels AJHL Coaches Show.
Dave, my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, thanks so much for watching the Canalta Hotels AJHL Coaches Show. Stay tuned for another episode coming up next week here at the Sherwood Park Arena. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.